Esiet sveicināti raidījuma ciklā Uzzini pirms dodies, droši darba ceļvedis Eiropā. Mani sauc Andris Segliņš, esmu Nodarbinātības valsts aģentūras EURES Eiropas darba konsultants un šī raidījuma cikla vadītājs. Raidījumos mēs apskatām tādus būtiskus jautājumus, kurus ir jānoskaidro pirms došanās uz ārvalstīm, kā darba meklēšana, darba tirgus situācija, darba līguma nosacījumi un citas praktiskas lietas. Katrs raidījums ir veltīts noteiktai valstī, un šodien mēs runāsim par Spāniju. Uz raidījumu esmu aicinājis Spānijas Nodarbinātības dienesta EURES Eiropas darba konsultantu Rafaelu Peresu Garciju. Hello, Rafael.
Hello, Andres. Nice to meet you.
I would like to begin our conversation by discussing the labor market situation in Spain. And I remember several years ago, Spain was a quite popular destination for Latvian job seekers regarding seasonal jobs in agriculture and fruit harvesting. And I'm curious if foreign labor is still required in this sector. And can you tell me more about the current situation in this sector?
Yes, of course. In our labor market has very important ups and downs in the last decades. We were like very important incoming country until in the years of 2000 to 2007, 2008. We were maybe the inquiries and the quests that were made in that time said that Spain was in the most popular destination in the world for coming and working. We suffered the crisis in 2007-8. It was terrible for my country, because our labor market and our economy is very based on construction and services, and that it was a big fall down of employment. We had serious problems there. We in the whole country we reached an unemployment rate close to 20%, and so there were tough times. After that, there was a very slow recovery that was interrupted by the pandemics and the consequences of the pandemics, because as we are very oriented to services and to attract people and give services to people from national and international precedents, we had a very, very serious downfall in our labor market caused by the pandemic. But then after that, we recovered quite fast. And now the labor market is much better, even though Spain traditionally has been a country that, for different reasons, has had a high unemployment rate. Now we are in my country in 11.5 of unemployment rate as a global thing in my country. There are very important regional differences. For example, in the north of Spain, the unemployment is lower. In southern Spain is higher. In the east of Spain is lower, and the west is higher. So the differences go from 6% in the Basque Country to more than 17% in Andalusia, in the southern part. So we are becoming a more attractive country to come and look for a job, especially in some special areas that we will talk about them maybe later on. We have a big problem of youth unemployment. That is very hard for our families, for our young people to leave home, to establish on their own. And we have near 30% of unemployment in the people on the age until 25 years old. So that's the most important problem in our labor market. The the unemployment for in the youth.
Thank you. And maybe you can mention which sectors currently are demand for labor and where you have job possibilities.
Yeah, as I said before, we are very devoted to services, tourism, hospitality, especially. In the services occupy 3/4 of the population who is employed. In services, I include general services, not only hospitality, not only tourism, but also, for example, my job, administration, commerce, all kinds of services related to people, to give services to people. So it's the most important sector. And also the industrial sector has been quite important in some decades ago. Now it's not, in terms of employment, it's not so important. We have, I think, 15% of population working force occupied in the industry, in different industries. And of course, agriculture employment is going always down and down, and it's very seasonal. And construction is also very important as a sector that gives jobs to many people. And it's, for example, now in my country, we have a lack of professionals in that sector, construction. And in regards to which of those sectors would receive better new candidates, that would be, in first place, I would say construction, because we always have a big lack of professionals, of skilled people in the construction sector. Of course, as I think as in everywhere, the health sector is very important, as a shortage. We have important shortages, especially in the higher levels, like doctors, specialized doctors, and nurses. We don't have that surplus, for example, in nurse assistants. We are now working in EURES to take many nurse assistants learning languages to go abroad, more than receiving. But we receive doctors and sometimes nurses. Of course, I think as in everywhere, the new IT professions related to software development, cybersecurity, cyber commerce, data analysis, and all that in Spain, as in everywhere, is very important in receiving people. The curious thing is that maybe if you work in that sector, you don't have to come. You can work for a Spanish employer, even though you stay in Latvia or in Bahamas, maybe. It's a global phenomenon, of course. And of course, the engineering sector is also important, especially the profession related to automation, to make industrial processes more automatic and more simple. And that would be of course, the tourism sector is very important in my country in terms of activity and also in terms of workforce. So it's highly seasonal. So we have many people employed part-time of the year in hotels, in restaurants, in resorts, especially in the east and southern coast of Spain. So when the summer comes, there's always lots of jobs offered in that areas.
Thank you. If someone is looking for job opportunities in Spain, can you suggest what, how, and where to look for jobs? Maybe mention also some job search resources.
Yes, as a first approach, it's you can use the public services, public employment services. You can even use EURES. Although I'm not very fond of our portal or EURES portal as a job search engine, but it's quite good for have the first general approach to what is happening in the labor market in Spain. What are the jobs offered? And see if what you are looking for really are there companies who offer that kinds of jobs. Later on, we have also a public website that is a job search engine that is supposed to receive vacancies and information from many private job sites. It has a bit of problem, the same problem as the EURES site. That means much information, maybe too much information, that sometimes to look for a very particular job gets a bit difficult, because you receive many not really interesting informations. So this job site that is called Empleate, like get a job, Empleate, it is a public one. Sometimes it takes you to other sites owned by the employers or owned by private job sites that are working a lot in our labor market. Maybe we will have later on communication. We can give you some concrete sites that are very useful for some particular sectors, and some others are very general and have jobs of all the sectors.
How about social networks? Do they play a significant role in job search in Spain?
Well, I would mention LinkedIn, especially in some sectors, the technical sectors. Not for example, LinkedIn, at least in my country, doesn't work much with health sector. The doctors and nurses are not very, I don't know why, are not using LinkedIn very much, but IT people, in tourism also, professionals. So LinkedIn is definitely the social network for looking for a job. Any job searcher should have their LinkedIn profile updated and use LinkedIn, because it's I think it's very efficient in terms of the relation between the time that you should occupy doing your profile and looking in LinkedIn and getting links to important sites, to important or potential employers. I find it a quite efficient social net in this moment.
Okay.
In Spain, it's working a lot, of course.
Yeah. When looking for work in another country, it becomes essential for to know foreign languages. How important is to know Spanish when we're looking for a job in Spain?
Absolutely. We are not. We are very different from, for example, the Nordic countries. I know Spain, as a native language, I think it's the second most important language in the world. Second, past the Chinese, Mandarin Chinese is the first one, and then it comes to Spanish as native language. Of course, English is much more used as a second language, or as a language to communicate between people from different countries. English is leader, of course. We know that. We all know that. Spanish, as it is a very important language on its own. So for that reason, maybe there are others that we could investigate and talk about them. It's not a bilingual or trilingual country, not at all. We talk in Spanish. I think it's about 30% of our population can manage in other language. If you compare that with, for example, Norway, Denmark, or I think even Latvia, to come and be able to have a social network and to manage in my country, you have to learn. Maybe it's not necessary to have a C2 in Spanish, but be able to communicate in Spanish is very, very, very important. Okay. You can see that in our job ads. If you look for a job, there are very, very few ads in other languages. There are some, especially in very highly qualified IT or market analysts or financial analysts. Maybe you can see the ad in English for multinationals who are established in Spain. But maybe that is 1% of all the job offers that we may have. So learning Spanish is vital. And as I told you, we are a services country, very services oriented, and all the jobs that have to do to give services to people. Of course, the language is crucial. It's very, very important.
Yes, we understand that if someone would like to...
and you have to take in account, sorry, Andres, one more thing. We have, apart from Spanish, 3 other official languages, which are Catalan, Basque, and Galician. And it's not, you can, of course, I don't want to scare people that wants to come to Spain, not at all. You don't have to learn necessarily Catalan to work in Catalonia, for example. You can manage and work only with Spanish, of course. But then again, if you want to stay for a long-term basis, you should also learn the language of that region, be it Catalan, be it Galician, be it Basque. And the Catalan is not only talked in Catalonia, also in the part of Valencia, they talked Catalan, and also in the Balearic Islands, they speak in Catalan.
Yes, it's understandable that if you are planning to stay for a long term, then you have to learn step by step local language. It's the best way also to integrate in society.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Once someone finds a suitable job offer, and the next step is to apply for a job. What is a common practice in Spain? Should I send by email my CV or by post, or maybe to come by person to visit employer?
To visit in person, it's I think it takes so much time and effort that it's better to have a first contact online. So when of course there are the big companies have their careers space, their careers page, and usually you have to record your information there or attach your CV to be in their database. It's also very similar to the big job sites, the job sites that have a lot of information and jobs offered. Usually it's better to be registered in the job site with all the basic information there. and that doesn't mean that if there's a particular job that you are interested in, you should also have to make a cover letter and also attach your CV. Of course, if you are a resident in a place like this one, my city is Valladolid. We have 300,000 inhabitants, and we have several important companies like Renault, like Michelin, food industries. We have quite interesting industrial activity, and of course services activity. So if for example you come to visit to Valladolid, to my place, to look for a job, I would recommend you to try and get in contact online with the companies that you are more interested in work for. And then if you have some kind of response or no response, but you think there is a possibility, or you see in their website, or you hear that they are looking for a job candidates in which you may fit, then the personal visit would be the next step.
Okay. You already mentioned the CV, and well-prepared CV, in my opinion, is crucial in the job search process. What are your recommendations for preparing a good CV for job search in Spain?
Well, now that thing is becoming very global oriented. We are a Latin country, and we have a tradition of very long CVs that you could hear someone saying, well, I have a 5-page CV, as if that was a big merit, you know. Now it's just the opposite. You don't have to elaborate a very long CV, because the employer or the persons that do this, that participate in the selection process, I mean, I include myself because I participate in pre-selections. Sometimes we prefer to have a quick look, and you see if, and usually you see if it's a candidate that fits or not. Yeah, and you don't have to go page by page. Try and get the information. We have all the selection teams have a lot of work. Sometimes we receive hundreds of CVs. So the most efficient thing, I would say, short presentation letter, 2 or 3 paragraphs, highlighting why you are the person that this employer may be looking for, and then 2, maybe there's no enough rigid things that is so there are options, but I would recommend 2 pages maximum for the CV. And you can most of all you must think with the mind of the person that receives your material, your information. See, what is the best way to make this person see that I can do the job and I'm a good candidate? So you will go to the conclusion, the less is the better. So not very verbal, not very extended, but to give the precise information that is needed. It is better to spend time preparing one candidature for one job, and you can spend some time, maybe hours. That is better than spend hours sending hundreds of CVs, not focusing on what they need, what they may need, what you can fit in that job that is offered.
What about the photo on the CV? Yes.
In Spain, we are usually using photo. The employers want to know be it good or bad, but they like to have the photo. of the candidates in the CV. That in some jobs it's logical, because if you are, for example, as receptionist, you should have a proper looks, but maybe you're applying for an IT job, and you see the IT people, they work in their trucks, and they don't even get a jacket or a shirt to go to work. But in any case, the employers usually appreciate that your photo is there.
And one additional question, is the EURES CV widely used in Spain or no, maybe?
Not really. Not really.
Okay.
I think EURES is a format that has some advantages. It's very you can put a lot of information in it, and other advantages, as it's a standard format. If you publish an ad and you are demanding for the EURES CV, that has the advantage that when you look for information, you know where it is. So that's the. I think the employers that I have worked with, only the Germans like the EURES. I don't know why.
Yeah, it depends on country, and it depends on employers.
Yes. In Spain, unfortunately, it hasn't been very successful. Even having said that, I recommend that the candidates have their EURES recorded for many reasons. For example, if they apply for a vacancy that we have published in the EURES website, they can import the information directly. If they apply for a grant or some internship, there are many projects and programs that are linked to the EURES documents, not only the CV, but also the different supplements of the EURES. Also, a very nice thing is the supplement for professional training, that it's quite understandable for different. It's also to put the information of the training that you have had in a document that is standard, so that the employer of a different country can understand what is your background and what are your working competencies.
Yes. If the job application is successful and the employer accepts the candidacy, next step, yes, the next step is to travel to Spain and begin employment. What registration procedures will be required upon arrival in Spain?
Well, as EU citizen, you don't have any obligation to register if you come to Spain. If you come, as in the case you mentioned, with a job offer, so you come directly to work, then you should register. We have like a registration for an EU citizen that should be instantaneous if you have a job offer. If the employer asks you to register, you can do it via the consulate of your country, of the Spanish consulate. You can apply for your number. It is called NIE, like foreign number, a foreign number that is valid for the tax offices, and that it will be linked to your social security account. Of course, you have to give that number when you do any procedure in Spain. Usually, if you have a job vacancy, it's from one day to another. You can have your number. If you can, so this is like the door that gives you access to the public services that in our countries, our European countries, are mandatory. I mean, you have to you have to register if you are working in a country of this environment. Usually it's not of any importance. If you come with no job, I mean, you come to look for a job as a European citizen, you don't have to register. And you will be a legal resident for 3 months, even though you don't have any job. You can even register at the public jobs office without your number. They will give you a provisional number, so you will be registered and you can look for a job. And as soon as you have the job, it's mandatory to have your official number as a foreign resident in Spain, and you will have all the rights in relation to work. You will be as a Spanish citizen, exactly the same. No differences in that. Yes, we have differences in the access to very determined jobs, public jobs, but for the rest, you, as you know, you are a European citizen, so they can't deny your access to employment.
Yes, but it's important to know that if you would like to search for a job or work, then this so-called personal identification number is very important to get social security rights and to do taxation and so on.
Yes.
And,
yes.
And when going to another country for work or for job search, then finding housing is also another important issue. What is your recommendations there, and what way to search for a housing in Spain, and what is the situation in the rent market?
There are tremendous differences between territories. Some territories are very problematic in that aspect. The big cities and the big metropolitan areas like Madrid and Barcelona, Bilbao, Valencia, housing is very, very expensive and very scarce. So it is convenient if you come to work for a Spanish company to negotiate these aspects, especially if you go to a big metropolitan area. The same goes if you have a job in the tourist sector, for example, in the tourist areas. As I told you, there are many jobs, and for example, via EURES, there are more and more published and for example, this event sees the summer. Hundreds of Spanish companies that offer jobs in the tourist sector. Sometimes without being necessary to speak Spanish, but more English maybe, or even German. You know, we have resorts and we have holiday places that the exception is to hear somebody speaking in Spanish in the high season. So in these areas, talking about housing, the prices of the places to live rise to double or triple the price of the low season. So it's very difficult, scarce, expensive. So you have to I recommend to negotiate and have that aspect clarified before coming.
Yes, it seems that it's as in other countries, in bigger cities, always it's not so easy and to find housing, and it's usually more expensive than in some local smaller cities. Yes, you mentioned that about housing, but maybe it might be helpful to also provide some examples of the cost of living, maybe some other things We know that Spain is also wine producing country and fruits and so on. Maybe some examples.
Some examples of how would you pay for a room, for example, in a that, as I told you, Andres, it varies a lot. But let's say, for example, Madrid, the biggest urban area in Spain, and now Madrid, that is the capital also, and has a big has grown more. And now Madrid it used to be a city. Now it's like a big urban region, and the prices are very high. For example, you can for a small, very small apartment, 40 meters, you can pay near 100 euro. The same goes to Barcelona, and it's also there are some abuse by the owners of things that they call houses that are not really houses, and even though they're not cheap, and so that's why I tell you that you should have that very clear before coming. If you go outside the big urban areas, for example, you come to a place like mine. We are 200 kilometers from Madrid, and now here the prices go less than half. So the same apartment that you should pay 1,000 euro in Madrid, you can have it here for 400 or 500 euro. In fact, as we have fast train, and fast train is getting generalized, I can go to Madrid in 1 hour. And there are people that are living here and working in Madrid. And they find it quite advantageous because even if you live in Madrid, you may have to spend 1 hour going to your place of work. So many people are opting for that other option. They go to live in Valladolid, Guadalajara, Toledo, places that are not so far away, but are much cheaper. So the range is very, very high, well, very long, but you can expect very, very high prices in the big cities and also in the tourist areas in the high season. So especially that kind of jobs, I would recommend, please talk to the employer or the institution that makes the selection, the selection team, and say, how is this problem is solved, or do I have to manage by myself? If you have to manage by yourself, then ask for much more money, especially in these places that I told you.
Can you mention also some from practical side, maybe some prices of I don't know, food or cinema ticket or something like that?
Yeah. Well, there, as you know, this is a bit a controversial matter. Have you heard about the Big Mac index? It's just an index that the only indicator is how much is a Big Mac menu? How much does it cost? And I've looked for preparing this interview. I have looked for the Big Mac English, the recent Big Mac English index in Spain and Latvia, and it was a surprise to me that Latvia is a bit higher. Now in Latvia is €4.65, and Spain is €4.58, almost the same. You can also attribute that to the fact that in Spain the hostelry is cheaper in relation to the general prices. So as the bread has gone up, the milk, the food in general has gone up in recent years due to the world crisis, the wars, etc. But the prices when you go to a bar and have a coffee or a glass of wine or a beer have not grown so high. So this sector, as is very, we have many, a big offer. So there's much competence. So the prices are going, not growing very, very fast as other things, as for example, the prices of houses, etc., or the prices of the food. For example, the food has grown up in recent times. Now, for example, a liter of milk can be up to €1 in different supermarkets. Of course, there are, as everywhere, different options, and you can go to a cheaper one, where you can have maybe get a liter of milk for 60 or 65 cents, but then go to a different supermarket with more, it's supposed to have more quality and have the milk, a liter of milk nearly for €1. For example, a roll of bread, typical, we usually eat this white wet bread that is very, very good and very flavor, but it's quite expensive. You can pay €1 for a roll of bread, and at the same time you go to a bar and you can have a big beer for €2.50, for example. So if you compare this to the prices in the northern countries, it's a tremendous difference, especially in these articles that you buy at bars, restaurants, etc. You can have quite this menu for €12, or in that case, the big cities have a bigger offer of restaurants and menus, and the prices are more contained than in smaller places.
Thank you for this practical information, and we see that actually everyone can find this price level for their own, and there are different levels, and prices are higher or less, and different.
Yes, and, that depends. Yeah. And I work a lot with Nordic countries. For example, I have for example with Norway, and it's a totally different world in that aspect. Maybe the prices of the houses are higher, of course, but not that higher. But if you go to a bar and you have a pint of beer, and you realize you are in a different country, and you have to have one and go home.
Yeah, thank you. And at the end of our conversation, I would like to ask why someone should choose Spain as a destination country.
Well, I would recommend it to someone who lacks more social contact. We are very social people. We are joining all the time in groups for many things, just for hanging out, but also for the sports, for different activities. We have so maybe Spain is not for anyone, but if you come, you will realize that we have it has some positive things to be here. In general, we are we accept the foreigner with no problem. We are quite an open country. even though we are so bad at in languages, but we love that people with different accents and with different precedences come and is interested in our culture. Our labor market is quite receptive in this moment. So we are still receiving many immigrants from third countries. And that is the proof that we have vacancies, and we have vacancies to fill. And we have many potentials to develop. And of course, you can also mention the weather. You can also mention especially our street life, that when a foreign person comes and stays here for a while, then they go back to their countries and they miss it. They miss it. There's something that we have here that is not everywhere. This our social life is important. And also, of course, we have a spectacular nature, very assorted. You can, if you like mountains, we have beautiful mountains. If you like the coast, we have a marvelous coast. Not only the tourist one, that is the topical as related to Spain with big buildings beside the sea. That's just a part. We have the northern coast, the western coast. It's marvelous and much wilder, and for people that enjoy nature, it's a beautiful country. So there are many reasons to come to Spain. I would recommend everyone to come and at least try and spend some time. The language aspect, it is quite a barrier, but now there are many online resources, and all you have to have is the will, and you have to be a stubborn person that decides that in your life you will learn Spanish and then come and visit us.
Thank you, Rafael.
I convince you, Andres, will you come?
For interesting conversation and useful information. Thank you. Paldies arī mūsu skatītājiem, kuri pievienojas mūsu raidījumam. Ja jums ir nepieciešama kāda vēl papildus informācija par Eiropas valstīm, darba nosacījumiem, sociālo drošību vai starpvalstu nodokļu jautājumiem, dodoties uz ārvalstīm vai atgriežoties no ārvalstīm, aicinu sazināties ar mūsu Nodarbinātības valsts aģentūras EURES konsultantiem, un varat izmantot arī mūsu Nodarbinātības aģentūras mājaslapas EURES sadaļu. Paldies vēlreiz visiem, kas skatījās, un uz tikšanos nākošos raidījumos.